Hi everyone, and welcome to Open Forensics Lab. In this video, we are talking about how to prepare an oral interpretation performance. This video is designed to apply broadly to several interpretation events, including prose, poetry, dramatic interpretation, program oral interpretation, duo interpretation, and other literature-based performance events. The specific rules may vary by tournament or organization, so always check the guidelines for your event. But across interpretation events, the core goal is similar: to bring literature to life through meaningful performance choices. Oral interpretation is not simply reading aloud, and it is not just acting. It is the performance of literature through voice, body, structure, and interpretation. Your job is to help the audience understand the text, the story, the speakers or characters, the relationships, the emotional arc, and the larger meaning of the piece. In this video, we'll walk through 5 steps for getting started: understanding the event, finding literature, choosing a central theme, shaping the cutting, and preparing for introduction and delivery. First, understand what the event asks you to do. In oral interpretation, the literature is the foundation. The performer makes choices, but those choices should serve the text. That means you're not just asking, how can I make this dramatic? You're asking, what does this literature mean, and how can I help the audience experience that meaning? Different events may emphasize different kinds of literature or performance. Prose often focuses on narrative and storytelling. Poetry often emphasizes image, rhythm, and language. Dramatic interpretation often centers character, conflict, and emotional arc. Program oral interpretation often weaves multiple sources together around a central theme or argument. Duo interpretation uses 2 performers to create a shared world, relationship, or story. Each of these events typically has a time limit of 10 minutes. Even though these events are different, they all ask you to make thoughtful choices about text, structure, and performance. Second, find literature with performance potential. Good interpretation material gives you something to work with. Look for literature that has strong voices, vivid images, clear tension, interesting relationships, or meaningful emotional turns. You might search for short stories, essays, novels, plays, poems, memoirs, speeches, interviews, articles, or other published texts, depending on what your event allows. It's common for performers to use literature written in the first person, though this is not a rule. For multi-source events, you might combine different genres or voices. For single-source events, you would focus deeply on one piece of literature. As you search, ask yourself, does this piece have a clear theme or central question? Does it include strong language, images, characters, or speakers? Does something change from beginning to end? Can an audience understand the basic situation within the time limit? Does the piece give me opportunities to make vocal, physical, and emotional choices? And importantly, why does this piece matter? Strong literature is not always the loudest or most dramatic option. Sometimes the strongest piece is subtle, strange, funny, unsettling, or quiet. What matters is that there is enough meaning for you to interpret. Third, identify the heart of the piece. Before you start cutting, ask yourself, what is this performance really about? Not just what happens in the plot, but what is the deeper idea? A piece might be about grief, loneliness, memory, family, survival, violence, identity, power, friendship, belonging. The clearer you are about the central theme, the easier it becomes to decide what belongs in the performance. For a single source event, the heart may come from one central character, conflict, relationship, or moment of discovery. For a multi-source event, it can help to think of one piece as the core or trunk of the program. This is the piece that carries the central emotional or thematic journey. The other selections can then branch off from that trunk. They might deepen the theme, offer a new perspective, create contrast, complicate the audience's understanding, or connect an individual story to a broader social issue. For example, if the core of a program is a personal essay about loneliness, another source might offer a poetic image of isolation, a third might provide historical or cultural context, a fourth might introduce humor, contradiction, or resistance. The goal is not to include multiple sources just to prove you found them. The sources should talk to each other. In a strong multi-source performance, each piece should answer the question, what does this source add that the others cannot? Fourth, shape the cutting. A cutting is the version of the literature you shape for performance. Because interpretation events have time limits, you usually cannot perform an entire text. You have to select, arrange, and interweave material carefully. A cutting should have an arc. This means the overall performance should build in some way. As you cut, look for a beginning, build, climax, and resolution. The beginning should orient the audience. Who's speaking? What world are we entering? What tension or question is beginning to emerge? The build develops the situation, relationship, conflict, or theme. The climax is a major moment of tension, realization, confrontation, or emotional shift. You might even hear coaches, judges, or other competitors refer to this as the 7-minute moment or the 8-minute moment. This is because that is when the climax often happens in a competitive script. The resolution gives the audience a sense of closure. That closure does not have to be neat or happy. It may be unresolved, unsettling, or complicated. But the audience should feel that the performance has arrived somewhere. When cutting, remove material that repeats the same idea, slows the piece down, or requires too much explanation. Keep the moments that reveal character, build tension, or sharpen the theme. Also, make sure the audience can follow the basic logic of the piece. If you cut too much context, the performance may become confusing. If you keep too much context, the performance may feel slow. Your job is to find the strongest path through the literature. Fifth, begin planning the introduction and delivery. Oral interpretation usually includes an introduction written by the performer and spoken as yourself, not as a character. The introduction should frame the piece for the audience. It may identify the theme, explain why the issue or idea matters, include a source when appropriate, and state the title and author of the literature. There is a separate video on writing an introduction for oral interpretation, so we won't cover the full process here. For now, remember that the introduction should not become a book report. It should prepare the audience to understand the meaning of the piece. You should also start thinking about delivery choices. Who are the speakers, characters, or narrators? How will the audience know when the voice changes? Where are the characters located in the performance space? What vocal or physical choices might distinguish them? Where does the emotional arc shift? What moments need stillness, movement, pace, pause, or emphasis? There's also a separate video on intentional delivery for oral interpretation, including bookwork, focal points, character distinction, and authentic emotion. But as you prepare the piece, begin marking the places where major choices will need to happen. Preparing oral interpretation takes time because you are doing more than selecting text. You are shaping an experience for the audience. So choose literature with care, find the heart of the piece, cut with purpose, and make choices that help the audience understand why the performance matters. Thanks for watching Open Forensics Lab.